National Congress. Crispin Perry joins me now just to unpack some of what has been delved upon. Now, they call here, Crispin, to have a more inclusive economy, but currently we're growing at least 1% over the last year's GDP growth. How do we achieve this economic growth and also maybe have do away with inequality?
So one of the things that we've seen in this dialogue is an analysis of where our economy comes from, not just in the past 5 years, but over the past 50 years. And what you actually see is that during the apartheid period, our economy was stagnant at some point. At the point where we have the democratic dispensation coming in, we literally see a growth of significant portions right up until 2012 thereabouts, and then suddenly we see a dip again. So what does that tell us? It tells us that at some point we had a model that could grow the economy, but the fundamental point is how do we redistribute that wealth that we were able to grow. And that's where the nub of this discussion goes to, is whether the redistribution model that we had originally assumed works. Clearly doesn't work, because we were able to redistribute income, but we still have huge proportions of inequality in South Africa. So the question is, should we not be redistributing assets instead of just income? That's one of the discussions that have really flamed up in this forum. The other issue, of course, is the global polycrises that we're seeing: wars, climate change, and inequality itself. And how do we approach that from a global perspective? And we've seen one of the suggestions there is that South Africa's foreign policy must be definitely aligned to its national interests, but also our state-owned enterprises need to be rewired as well to fit into our international relations policy. Those are some of the suggestions that we've seen. And we think, well, one thinks that at least if you see some of these developments taking place, it would significantly move society forward. But I think one of the major things that we really have to grapple with is what society are we solving for? And the crises that we have now are what we should really be solving for, not for society that we should be dreaming of, but the problems that we have now: high youth unemployment, high levels of inequality, and very big microeconomic problems.
Aren't some of the crises that we have now at the hands of politics themselves, with the high levels of corruption? And some would argue even the stagnant growth that we saw in apartheid South Africa was because of the sanctions imposed on the government. Today we don't have such sanctions, yet we have a stagnant economy. Is then the governing party the party to ensure that this growth is created?
Certainly. So the periods where we had significant growth, that was the period in which this governing party was leading. And so the periods now where we are seeing a stagnation, also we must remember that we come from a period correctly. State capture, high levels of corruption. There's no question that that has eroded the state capacity and has also increased crime and also definitely slowed our economic prospects. But what we also must not forget is that from 2019 upwards, we come from a period of COVID-19, which had a devastating impact on the economy. And then we are now dealing with an epic war in Iraq, the epic war in Ukraine and in Russia. We are now seeing another crisis in Israel and Palestine. That too will definitely slow the prospects of economic growth, because it will have an impact on how our economy grows. So those are the issues that we have to contend with now. But when it comes to our own microeconomic situation, when we think about solving the problems that we need to solve, the major issue is our education system geared to ensure that young people are educated well enough to come out and be prosperous in this society? Do we have to, and we see that from stats that say that the number of people who are matriculating is not at the portions that we would like at all, or a number of those people who are not in education and training is quite a high number, and that's the problem that we have to solve for at the moment. I think that's where the urgency is, and that's where the importance of our policy outlook should be.
All right, thank you very much. Crispin Perry is one of the young minds of the governing African National Congress, unpacking some of what is being delved upon at the Motlanthe Foundation. Aview Mtila, Drakensberg.